I don't want to live like this. I don't want to eat like this. I want to eat good food that I like, but I also don't want to lose, like, I've been working on my body for 5 years now. I don't want to lose all that. So I started Community with Caroline in December of 2017. That was about 5 months after I competed. And I just took what I had learned so far up to that point and was like, I'm going to start teaching other women how to do it. And ironically, looking back, I kind of fumbled my way through the first few years of really gearing more into like, I don't want to be restrictive. They are not going to be restrictive, and neither am I. And I'm going to accept my body as best I can. I don't always do it, but just here's where I'm at right now. Do I want to work on my body even right now? Yeah, there's things I want to improve, but we're not going to continue this path of like sitting in the mirror and pinching my stomach or hating the way I look or hating the way my legs look in shorts. Like, wear the fucking shorts. I say that all the time. Eat the fucking cookie. It doesn't matter. Like, that's not going to keep you from reaching your goals. And people get so honed in on like, I'm not going to do this for 100 days.
Welcome to the Willpower Podcast, where we uncover the secrets of success and share the wisdom of exceptional individuals. I'm your host, William Gomez, and as a real estate professional, I bring you insights from the world of real estate and beyond. Join me as I engage in captivating conversations with incredible guests from diverse backgrounds and industries, from top real estate moguls to trailblazing entrepreneurs and influencers. We dive into the mindsets and habits of successful people. If you love what you hear, don't forget to rate and review. Get ready to be inspired, motivated, and enlightened. Live life today on Willpower. Caroline Mathias, did I say it right?
You did.
It's so good to meet you. This is the first time I ever met
Yes.
you, and I'm so excited to kind of dive deep and kind of get to know you a little bit better. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for my gifts. She walked in here with 2 books, which kind of, to be able to introduce her, she's one of her many things. She's an author, and first book she wrote was One More Bite, and then second book, it was Back for Seconds here. So thank you so much for doing that.
Welcome.
I'm really excited to kind of get to know you a little bit better. Normally I let the person introduce themselves, which I will, but I mean, you're just a jack of all trades. It seems like you're an author, you're a transformation coach, you're a podcast host, you're a wife, a mother, a zookeeper too. I don't know. For somebody that hasn't heard your name, go ahead and give me a 1-minute introduction, please.
First of all, you nailed my name pronunciation correctly, which not a lot of people do, which is fine, but you nailed that.
Appreciate it.
You nailed like everything that I do kind of in one fell swoop. You did a really good job. Zookeeper, I will go ahead and just agree to that because I feel like I've been put into that position because that's kind of like my husband's gig. But I obviously, now that I work from home, I do take on quite a bit of making sure everybody is good because we have a camel ranch. I think it's the largest camel ranch in Oklahoma, which is crazy. And now we have sloths and kangaroos and cows and donkeys and you name it, we have it. So
What I don't notice that you guys have any Highland cows. You need to get a Highland cow out
we
there.
do.
You don't have any cows, right?
We do.
Oh, you do have cows?
Yeah.
And then also, it's kind of a touchy subject for me. You have an English bulldog.
Yes.
What's his name?
Aaron.
Aaron. Okay. I used to have an English bulldog.
Oh.
His name was Dooley the mortgage pup.
Oh.
And he had the same exact thing that yours does on the side, how he lost the hair.
It's like a scar patch almost. Like
It's something that I think is pretty similar that happens to a lot of them. But
Yep.
Unfortunately, he passed away last year. It's been almost a year. Actually, this month will be a year. It was like one of the hardest things.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. But how old is he?
he's 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super excited to dive in. What's your 1-minute introduction for us?
So, I mean, I would call myself a fitness/transformation coach, but I do things very, very differently than most. I aim more at let's pull away from the bro diet. You can basically eat what you want and drink the things you want and do the things you want and work out the way that you want and get the body you want. So let's focus on getting the physical results in a way that is enjoyable. I'm just very much anti-toxic diet culture and making yourself miserable to get physical progress because you don't have to be miserable to make achieve your physical goals. So essentially that is what I do. We've coached over 1,000 people now on how to incorporate that mindset into their life and essentially never have to diet again. So,
yeah. And I think that that's where a lot of people go wrong whenever they're wanting to do any type of goal, but especially in fitness realm, you think, hey, my goal this year is going to be to lose 10 pounds, to lose 100 pounds, right? So you kill yourself to do whatever you need to do to get there. And then once you get there, you're like, okay, great. Like today, I had 2 coffee meetings right before I came here with you. And the first guy that I met with, it brought up that he had a challenge to go 100 days with no alcohol. And then I was like, oh my gosh, you should have told me. We should have done happy hour today. And he was like, oh my gosh. He was like, yeah, we should have. And I go, so what's the plan now? Like, are you not gonna are you just gonna go back to what you were before? Because before he was just like, I used to just like drink and then I just couldn't stop, and then the next day would wake up with a hangover and then can't. I wouldn't really feel like that's who I needed to be. But I'm like, okay, so you did 100 days sober, but like now what? And then people seem like once you kind of get to the mountain, you kind of go back to all your old habits. And it's the same thing in business as well. It's like, hey, I want to hit my first 100K. I want to hit my first $1 million. And it's like, once you get there, in order to be able to sustain that income or sustain that goal, you have to be able to put habits into place rather than just like this. I remember seeing some of your stuff, and one of your biggest journeys was doing your bodybuilding competition. Mm-hmm. And I think you kind of maybe experienced that there once you got to the top physique that you had. But it's like, how hard was that? How hard was it to get there? And then how hard was it afterwards?
It was that experience. I didn't know what went into it. And I, at the time, had kind of gotten my body to the point where I was like, obviously I still like have work I want to do, but I'm pretty happy. Now it's almost like I wanted another goal. And I was like, I want to do this. Didn't even really know why I wanted to do it. I think it was just like a validation thing. And I just wanted something to work towards. And I do very well when someone says, here is what you do. I will take that list and I will just do it. So my coach was like, okay, let's go. And it was the hardest experience ever. One of the toughest experiences of my life mentally because of how much I love food. And I didn't realize how much cardio you do. The cardio was insane. 2 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that wasn't even the workout. So it was rigorous and really hard on my body. And mentally, I worked so hard to get just to that point that by the time I got to the stage of the day of the show, I remember being like, because I didn't know what to expect. And my husband had competed before. So he was like, when you get on stage, you'll know either if you love it and this is something you want to do, or if you hate it. And I will never forget when I stepped on the stage and like the lights hit you and you see the judges, I just felt like a deer in headlights. And I was like last place in the morning show. And I just felt so like, I walked in this morning. You couldn't have even like pulled me out of the bubble I was in. I felt so proud of myself and I felt good and like, I don't know. And the second my feet hit that stage and they judged me, I was like, I literally was just bawling. We left to go eat lunch and we had to go back for the night show. And I was just crying hysterically. I was like, I don't want to go back. I don't like this. I literally felt so good about myself an hour ago. And now I just feel like shit. And so mentally it was really hard. And after the show, you kind of go through, they call it the post-show blues because you have to reverse diet. So in my head, just like you were talking about with your friend, I was like, just do this. Just make it 12 weeks. Just make it 12 weeks. And then after, my coach was like, well, you have to reverse diet now. If you just start eating normally, like you could balloon up, like you put on weight like crazy. And so then it just was like, here we are again. I'm in this cage. I'm fearful of what I'm going to eat every day. How long do I have to do this reverse diet? I don't like it. It's miserable. And I just did it because I was terrified to lose what I had worked so hard to gain. And so I was in 6 weeks of a reverse diet. And that's the point when I was like, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to eat like this. I want to eat good food that I like, but I also don't want to lose, like I've been working on my body for 5 years now. I don't want to lose all that. So I started Community with Caroline in December of 2017. That was about 5 months after I competed. And I just took what I had learned so far up to that point and was like, I'm going to start teaching other women how to do it. And ironically, looking back, I kind of fumbled my way through the first few years of really gearing more into like, I don't want to be restrictive. They are not going to be restrictive, and neither am I. And I'm going to accept my body as best I can. I don't always do it, but just here's where I'm at right now. Do I want to work on my body even right now? Yeah, there's things I want to improve, but we're not going to continue this path of like sitting in the mirror and pinching my stomach or hating the way I look or hating the way my legs look in shorts. Like, wear the fucking shorts. I say that all the time. Eat the fucking cookie. It doesn't matter. Like, that's not going to keep you from reaching your goals. And people get so honed in on like, I'm not going to do this for 100 days. I'm not going to do, I'm going to do this diet. My diet starts on Monday. Oh my God, I got to eat all the things before I start my diet. No, like you really can eat what you want every day, and you don't have to live in fear of like, well, I'm going to abstain from this for 6 months. Great. What do you do at the 6 months? And that's when I have clients who sometimes will be like, well, I kind of want to do keto again because I know it worked. I'm like, okay, but are you going to do that at 80 years old? Do you want to eat like that? Like, you physically, not a lot of people can do keto. It's very hard, and you have to do it meticulously. So why not just do something that you love? And yes, there is like a method to the madness. I'm not just saying to everybody, eat what you love every day and you'll make progress, because that's not the truth. You have to understand macronutrients. You have to understand micronutrients. You also have to understand sleep, stress. Like, there's a whole array of shit that goes into getting a person to where they really want to be. It's not just about diet and exercise. And I think nowadays more people are understanding that there's hormonal imbalances that have to be tended to. And that could literally be a make or break. So you could have someone going to the gym twice a day, every single day, killing it, eating their diet, making zero progress. And like, I don't understand. First of all, are you eating enough? What is your stress level? Like, are you sleeping? And then that's typically when you start peeling back that onion, that's when you start understanding, oh, okay, your sleep sucks. Your body's not recovering properly. So then you're going and putting yourself through a really intensive workout the next day when your body's not even recovered from today. So no, you're not going to make progress. And I think that's what I really aim to get people to understand is there is a delicate balance of you can overdo stuff like I did. And, you know, I did anabolic steroids back in, it was 2018, because again, like I was in that mode of like, I'm never good enough. I want to be bigger. I want to be better. Just, I was never good enough. And so I started doing that, and that really put me back. That was hard on my body.
Was that before or after the show?
That was after the show.
Okay.
And again, I look back now and I'm just like, I scratch my head. I'm like, why? Why did I do that? I wasn't even doing it because I was competing in a show. I just did it. Like, and it caused a lot of issues, like health issues. And it didn't do anything to eventually further me like I thought it would. I thought it would just fix everything.
You remind me a lot of myself, and I think people like that have the personality that we do is I picture it as a double-edged sword, and it's a good and a bad thing because we have that front of the sword that helps us kind of reach those goals, and we want to bigger, better. We want to go to the next thing, but the other part of the sword can really, really hurt us because we're constantly, like you said. For a quick analogy, it's like wanting to go and go kill it again whenever your recovery is super low, and you're just like, but I have to be faster than this, right? And a lot of people kind of envy personalities like us, but you have to be very, very careful because I also have a very addictive personality, and if you can get addicted to the wrong things really quick, and sometimes it's too late before you look back. So one of the many questions that I get asked, it's like, so what is your podcast about? And it's called Willpower because I feel that anybody, like I would have this conversation with somebody, let's say we were at a restaurant, we were having coffee or whatever, and I would want to hear people's stories. And I'm like, what if I have people in here that they can kind of tell me like how they got started on, because the thing is that people see you right now and then they're like, wow, like that's something that I could never do. But they don't ever see what happened when it all started. And this is exactly why I like to have just people from all different walks of life to come in here and share their story in order for myself and then anybody in the audience to just get like a nugget and be able to learn from that. So we go back to you doing the bodybuilding show. That was 5 years into your journey. So you had started 5 years before that, your journey of like working out. Tell me about that. Like what got you started into the whole fitness?
Maybe it wasn't a total of, it was like 4, I think. My transformation journey began in it was 2014. It was right after I had my daughter, and I had severe postpartum depression and didn't really realize it until actually when I was in the middle of my transformation. But I was going through a lot of stuff mentally, and I was struggling with alcohol. I had already kind of had a previous addiction with food that started when I was younger. And I had struggled on and off from my early 20s up until my early 30s with alcohol. And I just don't have a good relationship with it. And so I just started drinking. I was staying at home, struggling really, really hard with being a stay-at-home mom. And then, most women, not all women, but most women will understand when I say I would go through a cycle of feeling like this isn't what I thought it was going to be. This is really overwhelming. I don't like this. I don't know what to do. I don't want to go out and have play dates. So I would be stuck in the house. And I just felt like I was constantly working to keep my house clean. But then I would feel guilt for feeling like I didn't enjoy every minute of being, home every day with my kids, because then I would gaslight myself and be like, well, most women would love to be a stay-at-home mom. And here you are, you have this opportunity and you're not enjoying it. You should be enjoying it. So that coupled with going through the postpartum was just a recipe for disaster. And I started drinking every day because I just didn't know what else to do. I was like, I guess I'll just start drinking wine at 1:00 in the afternoon. What else am I going to do? And that spiraled very, very quickly. And it got to the point where my sister and husband were actually like talking about stepping in and being like, I don't know what's going on, but like, this has to stop. It's getting really out of control. So that was the moment when I was like, one of my friends was doing a transformation with this coach out of Oklahoma City. And I was like, maybe I'll just do that. And it was such a weird thought. I had never stuck to a diet. And everybody was even laughing, like, are you really going to do this? And I was like, I guess, like, I kind of want to. And it was just that one little moment. And I contacted her, and it was I go back. I had done diets my whole life and never stuck to one. And the difference was I was not just committing in my head to do a diet. This was a relationship. I was hiring a person to coach me. So I was already like having someone to physically hold me accountable. I was financially investing. So I was spending money. So I was like, okay, if you're going to do this and you're going to fork over the money and have someone that you're reporting to, you are going to do it. So that was the difference for me, was investing in myself financially and like accountability wise. And she was pretty hardcore. I was eating very little, working out all the time. So I essentially, like you said, I had taken my addiction with alcohol and I was like, all right, now we're going to the gym every day. And that's what I did. And so that started that experience. And that's when it just kind of snowballed. I lost the weight. Then I started like weightlifting, eating more food, bulking. And that's when I was like, what's next?
How big was that transformation? I don't think I've ever seen like the full. I've seen some before and after pictures of you, but
I have a lot of pictures.
Yeah, but like when it first started, like were you like really overweight or?
So no, I wasn't really overweight. I was, I think it was 140 when I started. I hate using this word because I don't use it ever, but like kind of skinny fat. Like I didn't have a lot of musculature. I was overweight for me. I was always like a size 0 or 2 in high school. So for me, I was not fitting into my clothes. My stomach was hanging over. I was very self-conscious about that all the time. And when I looked at photos of what I would want to look like or put on my vision board, it was like these women who were muscular and they had, tight little stomachs and abs. And, at the time, that's what I was like, this is what I want to look like. And so the first year I dropped probably 15, 20 pounds. So I got down to like 120, which was small. And then that's when I was like, I have nothing left to burn. Now what do we do?
Yeah.
And so we, you know, my coach added calories and weightlifting in.
So you go do the show. A few months after that, you start coaching or community with Caroline. And then when you first started that, what was your goal? Like, what was your purpose of doing that?
When I initially started, my goal, so funny, I was like, I just want to coach 500 women. I want to have all these women on my roster and coaching all of them. And initially my husband, he's a businessman, and he was like, well, you're not going to be able to coach that many, you'll have to have coaches underneath you. And at that time I'm like, no, I want to coach everybody. I want as much business as possible. Like, I want this to explode. I just want to do well. And I still think at that moment I was in the mode of just wanting to like prove, I don't know who, prove that I was worthy and prove that I could be respected and taken seriously, and I could really do this and build a business off of it. And so it began like that. And, you know, I didn't know what was going to happen. The first month I launched it, I was like, I need 5 people. And I had 20 signups the first month. So I was just like, you can imagine, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I have 20 people. And then it doubled. Like every month after that, it just like doubled and tripled.
And tell me if I'm signing up now, which I'm assuming is probably the same thing, in which you can only be a female to sign up, correct?
No.
Oh, this is male and female. Okay.
Yeah.
So what does it look like for like a person that's wanting to sign up for that?
So right now, which we do free consults all the time, if someone wants to sign up, we do kind of a little conversation if they want to. Most people will just go to the website and sign up. I will get that email, and then we start the process of, I send them an intake form where it's basically just, I want to get to know them. Like, what do you enjoy as far as working out? What do you enjoy food-wise? Like, I have a whole section of non-negotiable items. What are your items you're willing to not ever give up to still reach your goals? And I kind of have to soft launch them into it, because I will sometimes have clients who are like, I want this. And I'm like, okay, why do you want that? Why? And a lot of people get taken off guard. They're like, I'm hiring you for this, but you're asking me why I want this. But I want to make sure that like, this is going to be a good fit. And I also need them to know, like, I'm not a regular coach. If you're wanting someone to like stand over you like a drill sergeant, I don't do that. I don't coach like that. I want to help you transform every aspect of your life. And I know saying that, it sounds so cheesy, and I hate sounding cheesy, but when I start working with someone, I look at them kind of like an onion. I'm like, let's peel back. And it happens the first couple of weeks. I'll give them their macros. I'll give them their guide, their little meal plan guide, workouts, whatever workout they end up wanting to do. If it's gym workouts, yoga, Pilates, walking, stretching, no working out, great. We start there. And the first couple of weeks, I kind of get that feel of they'll, you know, if they're struggling with like a sleep cycle, or like I hate my job, or like I'm really struggling in my marriage, we start just kind of talking every week at our check-ins. How are you doing? And that's when like everything kind of unfolds, given if they're going to open up, which most of them do. And then it's like, okay, so this is an aspect we need to focus on. And 9 times out of 10, you find that when people are aiming to change their body physically, it's never about their body. It is literally something else. And you got to get to that something else to change the physical. Because I'm a poster child for like, you can get the body you want and be ripped and have 6-pack abs and be flashing them around social media all day, every day. That doesn't fix anything else that you're dealing with. And I literally thought that was going to fix all my problems. Like, if I just feel good and like look cute in a bikini, that will make me happy. And it didn't. I was quite literally miserable when I looked the best that I looked. And you have to start understanding like, okay, well, let's fix all this other stuff. And like, what can we work on in other areas of your life? And maybe it's an autoimmune condition that you don't know you have, or a hormonal imbalance that literally one little, like, you figure that out, what that imbalance is, you start taking, and then that makes you feel different mentally, or feel better energetically, and that improves everything else. And so once you kind of fix all that other stuff, the physical stuff just comes. So that's just what I tend to see with the coaching that I do. It's not the outside stuff.
So it sounds like you're kind of like doing therapy with them a little bit.
Very much so.
Which is, and so when you started, you started with 20 signups when your goal was 5, and then I remember you doing a post like a while back saying that you went from like 300 to 3,000. How many people do you have in that group right now?
In the CWC group on Facebook, we are almost to 4,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that grew in how long?
That was over the past 6 years that we've been steadily growing that.
What was like your quote unquote 5-year plan on it whenever you said, I want to start with 5 people?
My 5-year plan was 500 I think it was 500 clients total to coach. And I haven't done like the math in a couple months, but the last time I had like kind of looked at what me and my coaches underneath me have coached total, it was like around 2,000 people. So, which is crazy.
How many coaches do you have underneath you?
Currently right now I have 4 coaches.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 4 coaches. So you technically had the math right there on like, I want 500. So so each coach is kind of doing can handle about 500 people or so?
Not 500. No, this was over the course of everything.
Oh, gotcha.
But, typically, and this is kind of just what I've seen with me and then my coaches, depending on what their lifestyle and other jobs are like. But like when I had my roster around 100, it was really, really, really hard. It was doable, but I was just not ever stopping. When I would bring it down to around 70, that's kind of like my vibe. I like staying around 70. And then like my head coach, Dana, she does really well with around 80 clients, and she has like a full part-time job with State Farm on the side. So for her, she's able to do that and CWC and keep her roster around 80, and she's able to do that. But my other coaches, they have different lives and different jobs. And so like Luke, my first male coach, actually, he could probably do around 100 and be totally fine. So everybody has kind of a different capacity level.
When do you see that you guys get a surge of like clients? Is it at the beginning of the year?
Typically February to March is a big surge. And then October, oddly enough, is a surge.
So it's people trying to beat the New Year's resolution. They're like, this is not New Year's resolution. We're in the spring now. It's like, this is not New Year's resolution. Like I'm getting ahead of it.
Either I would assume maybe they've tried to do a New Year's resolution and then they're like, I can't, whatever they've tried to do. And then it's that like it's still kind of the beginning of the year, but that resolution period I think has passed, but yes.
And then what do you think the average client kind of sticks around with you? Or not just with you, but just, I guess you can tell me with you, and then that could probably tell me the average of whatever people stick around with stuff.
The average that I've noticed for us has been, I would say 2/3 will stick around for a minimum of 6 months to 9. And then we have a third that like, I have some clients I've had on my roster for 3+ years and I'm still coaching them. Yeah. So I do end up getting like a little group of mine that they're like, I want to be a lifer. Like I want to stay on forever. Cause we'll run discounts here and there that are like deep discounts. And I'm always like, this is never just for new clients. If you are an existing client and you want in on this deal, like I will grandfather you in. So those clients are always like, sign me up, do it. Like lock me in. And then they'll just hang out. So
one of the things that I admire about you is that you are the perfect poster out there for the imperfect person. And you're more than willing to tell everybody out there what you're going through, whether it's pretty or not pretty. Mm-hmm. And people can relate to the not so pretty most of the time because they're like, wow, this person is going through the same thing as me or maybe even worse. One of the things that you were very public about was your breast implant illness. Tell me a little bit about that.
That was honestly the beginning of kind of the past 5 years that I've been struggling on and off. And I love that you said poster child for being imperfect because, I don't ever want to be the person that's like, I have all the answers. I know everything, because none of us really do. But I have only led so far and gotten even my business to where it is by literally just relating to my clients and anyone else who watches my podcast or follows me on social media. I just always want to come out and be like, yes, this is something that I've done that I'm super proud of. I've authored 2 books. I've built this business on my own, but it has not been, I don't ever want to skim over the stuff I've gone through to get there. And I do kind of pride myself on sharing a lot of my personal struggles publicly, and it wasn't always easy. For a long time, I was like, I can never, ever utter the words that I did steroids. I figured no one would follow me anymore. Everyone would think I was a fraud. And that was exact opposite of what happened. And when I came out and finally started talking about that, I was like met with a lot of, oh my God, thank you for at least being honest about it. And the reality is no one has to share what they're doing or their life. But I personally think that it's the most powerful thing you can do, because if you share something that you're going through, inevitably there's going to be someone out there that's like, oh my God, even with the postpartum stuff, like that's how I felt. And, you know, I was really shameful for a long time about even saying how hard it was to be a stay-at-home mom. I didn't even want to say those words publicly. I just was fearful of the judgment. And now I talk about it all the time. But the breast implant illness, that hit me it was right after I did the steroids. I just like that's when the symptoms began kind of, and it was weird symptoms. It was like excessive throat clearing and trouble swallowing and like overactive bladder issues, stuff that just didn't make sense. And it was all kind of hitting me at once. And it was like ringing in my ear. The mental side effects were anxiety, like just kind of ups and downs, panic. I'm trying to think of all of them, like shooting pains in my breast that would alarm me in the middle of the night. That's when it all started. And I knew something was off, but I would go to the doctor and she'd be like, well, I don't know why like this is happening, but that can't be related to that. And I'm like, but why are they all happening all at once? And like, I've never had these symptoms before. And so I ended up going to specialists and spending thousands of dollars with different specialists at urologists trying to figure out, why is this happening? I've never had this. Why is it all of a sudden happening? And why won't it go away? And I just was met with no answers. Like they didn't know. So the symptoms multiplied over the course of 2 to 3 years. And in 2020 is when it was bad. And I was having suicidal thoughts, but it almost felt like they weren't mine. And I remember when they started happening, I was like, what is going on? Like, I don't think like this. This isn't me. And it felt like someone else was like in my head. It was very, very, very scary. And by that time I had a slew of other physical symptoms that I was dealing with. Just no energy. Like I lost my muscle. I don't know if you've seen any of the photos. It is wild looking back at the photos. Even my husband was like, your muscle is just like going away. Like, and I was still working out. It was bizarre. My body was just basically shutting down. And so in 2020, I was like, I had my breast implants in for about 12 years. So it was around the time that they encourage you to replace them. And I was like, you know what? I guess I'll just get some new ones. And went and met with a surgeon, just had a really weird feeling, like a gut feeling, like maybe I don't want to be doing this, but I didn't trust it yet. So I booked my surgery, paid like $11,000, went to my pre-op, literally was like a week out. And I was sitting there looking at like the legal stuff. They make you sign everything, basically saying like, this could potentially give you cancer. And I didn't look at that when I was 26. I didn't have kids yet. I was like, no, I want them, sign my name. And this time, having kids, having a family, like there was just a lot more, like you think about surgery differently when you're older. And I was like, I just couldn't get past it. And I was like, I just am so nervous. And my nurse was like, that's normal to be nervous. And like, I just figured she would be like, it's fine. You're gonna be fine. Sign it. And when she didn't say that, I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to do this. And I told my husband, I said, what if I just took them out and didn't get new implants? And he was like, okay, like you're having surgery in 5 days. That's fine, but why are you thinking this? I was like, I don't know. I just don't want to do it. And he was like, okay, so take them out. So I posted on Facebook that I was going to have an explant. And I said something about the symptoms. I don't even remember. I still hadn't connected the dots. And all these women started messaging me and they were like,
so you had been keeping all those symptoms
yes,
to yourself, even though you're a very like outspoken person about everything. Like what was making you keep those thoughts inside?
Not knowing what they were. And like, sometimes when you deal with like a chronic symptom, you can kind of gaslight yourself and be like, maybe this is in my head. Cause so many days my husband would be like, I'm tired too. But like, cause I'd come home and be like, I am so tired. I can't work out. Like I physically can't work out. And he would be like, well, just take some extra caffeine. He didn't know. But I wasn't telling him either. I was just expressing how tired I was. And it wasn't a matter of not being able to go work out because I didn't want to, or I was just little tired, my body physically would not do it. And if I forced myself to do it, I would literally be calling into work because I thought I had the flu. That's how tired it was. And my knees would like buckle underneath me. I would get out of bed in the morning and I'm not kidding you, my knees would like give out. And I was like, I feel like I have a 90-year-old body right now. It is so weird. And I don't know why. So I didn't talk about this for a while, mostly because I didn't know what they were. And I was scared. In my head, I thought it was something worse. So I didn't almost want to address it. And to be honest, I was trying to still like motivate people. And I thought if I started letting people in that I was struggling physically, I would be perceived as weak or not being able to help them. And again, I was wrong. That was the exact opposite of what happened when I did start sharing my story. And it took that one post, and all these women just flooded my inbox and they were like, oh my God, I have this, could it be related? And I was like, I don't know. I'm going to explant. I'm going to obviously share my story. I share everything. And when I chose to share that story, I will never forget, because I was talking about it a lot. And up until that point, all I talked about was my business. And I remember someone saying like, are you sure you want to share like all this stuff about like the breast implant illness and this whole process? Like, and I was like, yeah, this is what I'm going through. It's quite literally taken over my life. Like my health, like I have nothing right now. I can't work out. What else am I going to talk about? So I started talking about it more and more. And that is what like, I still to this day, a day does not go by that I don't get at least one message from a woman who is like, I saw your podcast, or I heard about you from my friend or whatever. And we'll start talking and we'll start texting, and they'll explant and feel better. And it's been the most impactful thing that I've done aside from my business, because it has helped so many just by talking about, this is what my experience was. I explanted, my symptoms went away. I have my life back. For the most part, I felt like a shell of a human. And that is what most women have also said, is it just kind of makes you feel like you feel like not yourself. You feel like you're just empty.
How long did it take after you took them out for those symptoms to go away?
Most of the symptoms went away almost immediately. There's actually a picture that is insane. I took a lot of the girls who had already explanted to take a picture of your face the day before your surgery, and then take a picture like the day after, the month after. And it is insane. My face and chest were so red. Even the shape of my face was different, like the night before my explant. And I took a photo like a month after, and the entire shape of my face like filled out, and like the redness was all gone. My eyes, I looked so sick, and I didn't even realize it until I explanted. And then, I mean, you can see like the whites in my eyes were white after.
That's crazy to me. Just because so you had them in for 12 years, and it wasn't until year 12 that stuff started happening. It
was around year 10. And they say that sometimes a traumatic experience to your body, or like pregnancy or childbirth, can trigger the symptoms. So it can be kind of like anything, I think. But I don't know. I kind of trace it back to, I think they began.
Do you think if you would have replaced them, that it would have had those gone away, just because they were like new, I guess, lack of better words, like silicone bags or whatever?
I don't think so. I think because I was already experiencing all the symptoms, I think it would have just continued. I honestly think it probably would have gotten worse. It just felt like a relief when I woke up from my explant and having them out. I just immediately felt like my body could breathe and do the things that it was trying so hard to do. It's odd. Like, and your body forms these capsules around them to protect itself from them. It's really weird.
So one of the things I want to also, I was curious about talking about with you is, so I've had Sean Larkin on the podcast. I don't know if you know him. Sticks. He's like from Life PD.
Okay.
And one of my questions that I had for him was, did it take a while to kind of get adjusted to, like, because he was like just this regular cop, and then he goes and is the host of this like national TV show, and of course he becomes like famous overnight, all this stuff. And then one of the things he told me, he goes, it really wasn't that big of an adjustment, because always being a cop, every time you walk into a place, like people just look at you because of what you're driving and what, you know, you're wearing the uniform, stuff like that. So afterwards, like it just, like people would just, you know, stare and look at me, and I was kind of used to it. The reason I bring that up is because I'm assuming that anywhere you walk, people maybe probably look at you because of anybody that's just listening and not watching. You're covered in tattoos from head to toe.
Yes.
So is that what happens every time you walk into a room?
It's so funny you brought that up. Yes. And it's so funny. I just said this yesterday because I was going in somewhere like the post office, and I was like needing it to be quick because I was in a hurry. And I walked in and I put my packages on the counter, and the lady was like, "Oh my gosh, Elvis." And Elvis is the number one. I don't know what, I mean, I do know what it is, but like Elvis is the number one that people are like, "Can I please," like at Costco, "Can I please look at Elvis? Can I see him?" And then I will, like, it starts a conversation like most of the time. But yes, most places I go, I forget that I have them. And that sounds really silly, but I do. But sometimes I will catch people looking, and I'm like, it's because I know it's because of like the neck tattoos and the sleeves and the leg tattoos now that I have all the portraits on my leg. But most people now are more drawn to either the Taylor Swift on my left leg, or it's mainly Elvis. And then I have Freddie Mercury, and then obviously Austin Butler as Elvis on my calf. But yeah, it's a conversation starter, and it is, I don't get to go anywhere now without at least one person being like, "Oh my God, I want to see Elvis or Taylor."
So if somebody doesn't believe that you have a very addictive personality, they just have to look at you or see a picture of you.
They just have to look at a photo and they'll be like, "Oh, okay, I get it."
Another thing that we have in common is that I've heard you talk about that the first couple that you got were very painful. And I'm not a big like needle guy. Like I'm not. So what really made you get all these tattoos if it was so painful to start with?
What's funny is for years I said I will never get a tattoo, and my husband is also covered, and so as he's getting all these tattoos, I'm like, I will never ever get one. I don't. There's nothing that I would want on my body for the rest of my life. So it's ironic that I sit here now covered. But the first tattoo I ever had with the 3 stars on both tops of my shoulders, and my husband got the same one, and it was so painful. Just these little stars. I will never forget. Like the recovery after when they're healing that was even more painful than like getting the tattoo. And I was like, never again. This is the only tattoo I'll ever have. And the second one I got was my song lyric right here. And it's from the Verve Bittersweet Symphony. And I've loved that lyric for years. And I was like, okay, I want to do that. That one didn't hurt, loved it. And then I got these little zodiac. It's my sister and I's zodiac sign in a constellation. And she drew this. And my artist didn't even want to do it. He's like, "I'm not doing that. It's just a bunch of dots." I was like, "You're going to do it." So he did that. Then it was my back piece.
You're like, I've paid you thousands of dollars. Like, how many do you have?
Oh my gosh. Well, so those 3 were my first, and then I did my back piece. But
I guess yours is an exception because there you have like,
it's in sessions.
You have large pieces to where.
So each arm was 3 sessions. My back was 2. I think my back was 2, and my back was the worst. That was my first big piece. And I'm telling you right now, I had little tiny pieces up until I did my back. And I just went in not knowing. I never sat for like a big piece. And I'm like, I can do whatever. I'm mentally strong. I can do it. And when I laid down and he did the outline, it was painful, but I was able to get through it. And then when he started, there's like a diamond in the middle where it's triple black, or I say triple black. It's just black. And when he started that, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't, but I'm like, I can't back out. He's already started. Like I can't have an unfinished piece. And I have never had to go somewhere mentally for that long in my life. I didn't know if I was going to do it. I literally was like playing movies in my head, playing songs in my head. At the end of it, I sat for 7 hours. And by the end of the 7 hours, I was shaking, like convulsing, because your body eventually is just like, I'm done. Like it's enough.
Were you paying this guy by the hour to where he's just like taking a sweet time? I'm just kidding. No. Just kidding. He's just like taking a sweet time. He's just trying to.
It's Johnny Black who did it. And he's owner of Spaded and Jaded. And they're very, very well known. He's known for being like heavy-handed. People will joke. They're like, if you've had a tattoo by Johnny, you can get a tattoo by anybody. And I had started with Johnny, so that's all I knew.
Yeah.
And when I got my neck done, I got it done by another artist at that shop. And I'm like, it feels like kitten kisses. It's nothing. Like this is so easy. This didn't even hurt compared to like my back, because Johnny did my arms too. And you're just like, you're sitting there like this half the time, like gritting.
And another thing too that we have in common is that it's funny that when you go through so much pain and you're like, man, I'm never doing this again. So last year I never cycled before, and I went and bought a bike and did 102 miles for Tulsa Tough. And I remember doing it, and I was just like, I'm never doing this again. Like I couldn't walk for the rest of the day. It was just like, and then little do I know that I've done probably 4 or 5 more after that. Like I'm just like, I want to do it again. Like I don't know what it is in our brain that we're like, hey, we've already gone through so much pain there. Let's just go through that again.
It's very weird, because every time I get a tattoo, I say, I'm never doing this again. I kid you not. When I did the Freddie Mercury one, I was like, that's it. And then I was like, but I really want Elvis. And it was like, I want the tattoo. I want it. But when I'm sitting for it, I'm like, I don't want to do this ever again. Like if they hit a certain spot, I can't even explain the pain. Like you really do. I'm like, why am I doing this? Am I a masochist? Like, why do I don't enjoy this. I think miserable.
I think you even said that it hurt more than giving birth.
It did. Yes. The back tattoo hurt they give you pain meds when you're in labor. They give you an epidural that blocks you from really feeling a lot of the pain. But when you're sitting there getting tattooed, you really start to question your sanity, because you're like, this really fucking hurts. Like when he hit my shin, because this was the pink on my shin was the last part that he did. I thought I was going to throw up everywhere. Like it was the worst pain I've ever felt.
You have Elvis, Freddie, which makes sense. Like as far as like, iconic, and they're not here anymore. How does that go with Taylor Swift?
I mean, anyone who follows me knows my love for Taylor Swift.
I've actually been to one of her concerts when I was like a little kid.
So,
well, I say a little kid. I was like in high school.
Yeah.
It was 2011 or 2010.
So that was the Speak. I think that was the Speak Now tour.
Were you there?
I went to the Speak Now.
Whenever she went all around. Yeah,
she had the little thing. Yeah, that's the one I went to as well. Yeah. What's funny is when I went to that, my sister actually was like, will you go see Taylor Swift with me? And I was like, I guess. Like, I liked her songs, but I was like,
I wish I had a video of that. And
I have a picture of someone doing this. My sister took it. I can't take credit. My sister has a freaking picture of like a fan holding up the heart. And I'm going to the Eras tour next November with Josh, because I've already been once, but I'm taking him too. And I'm like, we have to get a photo. Anyway, but that concert was,
I'm sure
like,
that tattoo will put you up front of the line.
I'm like, I need her to see this. I post it and tag people all the time that I know like is in her circle. I tag her publicist. I tag Taylor Nation. Like I know all the people to tag, and I'm like, eventually she's going to see this, because Austin Butler saw this. His sister actually emailed him, and like I was like, life made. Like I just wanted someone who knew him to like see. And in the fact that it was his sister, I was just like, I know for a fact he saw it, because he's going to open up an email from his sister. So all these two people, but yeah, so you went from not really liking Taylor Swift to having her on your... I didn't not like her ever. I loved her music. My sister took me to her concert, and I just remember being at her concert and feeling like, I don't know if you got the same feeling. I just was like, this is a collective experience. I've been to 100 million concerts. Her concert just was different. I just felt everyone's singing the lyrics at the same time. I was like, everybody here is like on a different level than any other concert. Because you go to concerts and there's people singing diehards, but then there's people who are just like,
she did give me hope that I was going to find a woman that could get dressed as quickly as she got dressed.
For all of her outfit changes.
Yes. It was like
that. No, that's insane.
Or so. Man, well, hey, thank you so much for coming. I really, really appreciate you coming on. And honestly, I don't even know if I've done this before, but I would love to even have you back later down the road, because I think that there's so much that I could just talk to you about. We didn't even really get into the zoo situation. How many animals do you guys have overall?
Oh my gosh. If I'm going to guess, 30 camels.
Where do you live? Like, do you live like in a you don't live in a neighborhood, do you?
No, okay. We're out in Claremore.
Okay.
So we have 50 acres in Claremore, and we have two, like, we have a Percheron horse, a Clydesdale. Those are like the big, massive horses. And then we have some mini horses, mini donkeys, regular donkeys, 2 sloths, 3 kangaroos, 2 lemurs.
I forgot about the kangaroos.
Yeah. Oh my God, the kangaroos are so funny. They're
Did
my
they
favorite.
work out with you or what?
No, the male is. You've seen pictures. He looks like he lifts. Yeah,
it's crazy. They all do. It's crazy. So one of the last things that I like to ask is, out of everything you've gone through, the breast explants, the bodybuilding show, the postpartum depression, the writing a book, creating this huge, awesome community. What is the best advice that you've received that has kind of carried on through all those situations that you've been through?
The best advice would be just, I guess, from the people closest to me when I'm in like a really low moment and I don't feel like I have anything left to say, or would just be keep sharing your story and be as authentic and open as possible. Because when you share like even the darkest moments, like it's so fucking vulnerable. And I know sometimes it comes off like it's easy. It's not. And just, I don't know, sharing every part of your story always is going to help someone else. And maybe just not being so hard on yourself and just, I don't know.
I mean, I think what you said couldn't have came out of anybody else's mouth more perfectly. So I think that we're taking that at face value there and just really like really believing it, because you've lived it throughout your entire time whenever you say that your start point was. But thank you so much, Caroline, for coming on. I really appreciate you being on here. And where can people find you?
They can find me. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. The website is caroline.fit. I'm also on TikTok too. So I'm on all the social media accounts. Caroline C. Mathias is my handle. And yeah, again, the website's caroline.fit.
And your podcast, CWC podcast?
That's it.
What is your podcast about?
Basically anything. I have people on to talk about breast implant illness. I talk about CWC and food freedom. Anything and everything that. And
you've had some really good people on there. I saw you had the Bachelorette on there, right?
Claire. I still talk to Claire. Yeah, I had Tamara Judge on from Real Housewives of OC.
We definitely. I mean, we definitely got to have.
We need a whole other episode.
One. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.